office or, the decision makers, where the team's positioned, because this can go a couple of ways. Hey, I'll say this, and then it's all you. But it's difficult knowing that Giannis is lingering above all of this conversation. There's a presumption because, hey, maybe we're assuming maybe he stays in Milwaukee. We don't know how they get out of this. We really don't. That's the read on that situation. So it's not far fetched that Giannis might be getting moved this summer. The Western Conference, man, I just wish he wasn't coming to the West.
It feels like it's gonna happen if he gets traded. I mean, I'm looking at Dallas, I'm looking at San Antonio, I'm looking at Houston, I'm looking at OKC. I mean, there's not a lot of East teams that are like jumping to the forefront for me,
No.
at least from a trade chip perspective.
So to tee you up with what you guys, what you're feeling, what you think they might do and your personal feelings. My only take on it is if San Antonio is the leading contender, say Golden State is a wild card, and for that matter, almost any other Western Conference team. If you're the Mavericks and these other teams that are either lottery bound or have a lot of assets, like the Houston Rockets, if they're in position to make a play for Giannis, would you be okay with him coming possibly in state and saying, well, yeah, we got Cooper Flagg though? And I'm not trying to water it down. This is a straightforward question because the only way those lower picks or other trade packages can be outbidded is if you guys threw the first out there. And instead of for me, it's just a little hard for me to sit there and be in that organization saying, like, being confident in what we're doing,
Yeah.
knowing that Giannis is 4 hours down the road and step A of getting back to, relevance and not thinking 5 years down the line has to deal with teams that we sort of let assemble on our watch.
Right.
It's a tough spot to be in.
Here is so I'll start with I think they will take Flag. I after that we won the lottery, I was convinced that they were gonna trade it. Just because Nico's been so so outward facing about, hey, we've got a 2 or 3 year window. We want to win now. We're doing this around Anthony Davis and Kyrie. And to me, I was like, oh, he just got his, I guess literally his lottery ticket to, get the third piece that whoever he wants, whether it's Durant or Giannis.
We also didn't mention the Kyrie injury, which is
Yeah.
interesting. And I think is he still opt-out status this season? Or like he has the option?
He has the option, I think, which I would assume he's going to opt out regardless. My expectation will be he opts out and resigns for like a 3-year deal or something. I'm getting that. I was nervous after Luka trade he might leave, but I do think he's good friends with Anthony Davis, and I do think getting the first pick, whether that's Flag or turn into something else, is probably enough for him to feel comfortable staying. And he really
And Dallas embraced him. It's in my opinion.
Dallas embraced him, and he's really embraced Dallas, like in a big
Yeah.
way.
Which, that works for a guy like Kyrie. Just wanted us to mention that. I'm also not very much worried about his recovery. I think that just give him the time. This isn't a rush it situation, and the urgency really isn't all the way up on that. It's like Kyrie's in our back pocket, sort of. So, yeah, we didn't mention that. I just kind of wanted that out there.
Well, that's actually kind of a great seg. So that was going to be part of my reasoning for why I think they will take Flag is if you're already Kyrie's probably going to miss more than half of next season. And then you look at the point guard situation outside of Kyrie now that they traded Luka. You've got Dante Exum, you've got Jaden Hardy, who's not a point guard, but he's probably not even a good shooting guard. But
Coronado High School, shout out.
And then you've got and I didn't mean to be. I love
Jaden. No. You're chilling, bro. It's real. No, we've talked about Jaden a few times on here.
And then Brandon Williams, who you kind of showed
the
year last year. But, he's an undrafted, guy that they're still trying to figure out what he is. So I'm looking at next year, and I know that they're probably going to make some trades, and it'll probably be around Gafford or PJ Washington or both. Because now you have Anthony Davis and potentially Flagg or Giannis. Either way, it's going to be kind of
Max Christie, he doesn't have the most defined position, but I think that he's a piece that you guys will enjoy.
I really like Max Christie, but yeah, from a like initiating offense standpoint, I just
Right.
think it's not really his game,
I'm
Uh,
with you.
but yeah, so I'm looking at next year, and it's like, well, you're probably not winning a title next year. Um, and when you're balancing that with all the trades you made to build this roster around Luca originally, they've got nothing from a pick perspective going forward. Everything swaps or gone out the door. Um,
Hmm.
so
Right. Yeah. There's the Porzingis deal and the Kai. Yeah. Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
all that stuff, and then you've got the Washington deal, the Gafford deal. Everything had like a pick attached to it, and then on top of that, you're built around Anthony Davis and Kyrie, who are both older and injury prone. So it's a bit of a ticking time bomb in a sense where I think the team is really talented, but if you have 2 straight years of Kyrie and or AD getting hurt, then you've probably already missed your contender window with those two. I mean, they're still going to be very good players, but they're probably not a 1 and 2, on a championship team at age 35 and 36 or whatever they'll be. At 34, maybe. I'm
Yeah.
trying
It's
to.
a different conversation.
So I think Flag is kind of this godsend of, okay, he's good enough to where you can compete right now. You can plug him in right away. Not that he's going to be your go-to guy, but he can.
But yes, there is a wait and see. He could surpass expectations, and holy effing crap! Like the
But
conversation's different.
no one thought Luca was going to be. Everyone thought he was going to be really good, but I don't think anyone thought he was going to
No,
come
year
into the
two,
league
Luca
and look.
shocked everybody.
Yeah, I mean, he's first team All NBA as a second-year player. It's crazy. Um, but yeah, so I think Flag gives you this ultimate. Plus, you still have Lively, so you've got your kind of base young core of, hey, we got these two awesome front court guys that we can build an elite defense around going forward. But also, they're both good enough to where, hey, we can compete for conference finals, maybe finals if things break right, kind of thing. The West is a beast, so it's hard to say. But, on the flip side of it, taking the Giannis angle, I do think he would be the guy. I've seen Durant thrown out there. I've seen Booker thrown out there. I don't think, no disrespect for those guys because they're two of the best players in the league. But to me, that's a non-starter for the Flag pick. Giannis, I do think is interesting. I went to college at Marquette in Milwaukee, so a
Yes,
bunch of
sir.
my
Shout
I went
out.
to a lot of Bucks games. I kind of on having just gone through that myself, I almost don't want to do that to all my friends in Milwaukee. But it, like you said, I mean, it's starting to look. I wouldn't say inevitable, like he's going to get traded for sure this year, but the Bucks have really backed themselves into a corner on that one, and they, eventually he's probably going to leave. They just, they don't have the guys around him.
Let's let's stay there. If the Shams bomb drops, you guys sent the first. Maybe it's a 3-teamer. Maybe the first goes to Milwaukee. Maybe it goes somewhere else, and that other team pours everything that they can to get the first, and you guys just send everything to Milwaukee. So Milwaukee doesn't get Giannis. They give up Giannis, and they don't get the first pick, but they get a ton of crap from somebody. You guys got Giannis. Let's say Anthony Davis is a part of this situation. Let's say he's kept. Let's say you have Giannis and AD, and let's also maybe just consider AD's dealt. Let's say you got Giannis and some more salary cap.
Right.
I don't think that Milwaukee does this, and this is just a C scenario, third option. I don't think Milwaukee sends Giannis for AD and whatever else you guys could sum up that isn't the first pick. I don't know if that gets it done for
Right.
Giannis. I don't.
I don't think so, but it's also one of
We
those things where who knows? Because
right.
I think all their picks are out the door too, and that might be
Exactly.
where they're like, "Hey, we need to stay good." And Anthony Davis is the best.
Possibly.
Yeah.
and in an East where they could stay in the playoff hunt, and you never know. And right, we didn't also think that Luka and AD was a straight up trade, just
Mhm.
essentially before it happened. So
Right.
we don't know how these teams consider what or who's actually offering what. So just listing out those however options that you guys end up with Giannis, how do you feel?
Uh, so that's a
Is the title window like are we're back, baby? Like is
if
34 popping? We're
if
buying
we
Greek
get
freaks.
if we get Giannis, I think in any scenario, the expectations got to be we got to win a finals like right now, right away, in my opinion. Um, not that like we should be the favorites, but like the expectation in the city should be, hey, we did this to go win this year or next year or the third year, and we got to put everything into these 2 or 3 years.
We got
And
a window again. Say
yeah,
somehow, you probably keep Clay. Kyrie's probably still back pocket because I don't know who's taking him pre recovery. So it's like you're kind of back pocketing Kyrie with Giannis, and say you kept the pick, say you kept AD, say you didn't, but you got options to get now. Who wants to come play with Giannis in the West? I don't know. I just wanted to stay there and conceptualize it because I'm with you. If I'm that person, I might that might sell a little better than Flag better be the freaking truth,
right.
which I think he will be. I think he will be. But I think you laid it out properly as well. That if we are just rolling with the pick, it's we've got a chill time. Like everybody relax. We're playing a different game. I don't know.
I do have one crazy one for you. I have thought through the Giannis for AD swap before, and that one, if Milwaukee would do that, I would do that. Um, no disrespect to AD, but I do think Giannis is better. Um, but one I was thinking through that would be kind of crazy. It'll never happen, but um,
Indeed.
I keep coming back to San Antonio, the situation they're in where they've got Castle, they just traded for Fox, and now they've got the second overall pick. And you're staring at Harper probably.
Ooh.
Um, and what do they do there? Uh, would San Antonio ever consider something around a 2 for Anthony Davis swap? Um,
Glad that you said that because I meant to also mention that I've seen you mention or just say, hey, I wouldn't be opposed to double dipping in this lottery.
yeah. Um,
If we're pumping the brakes, this could be the time to go get some talented players. I think this draft class is good.
yeah. And
That's something. I'm
we need
not
a
with you.
point guard real bad, and there's probably 5 or 6 in the top 20. I mean, it's a good point guard draft. That's, and on that trade, or that tweet, I was more like, hey, maybe we flip Gafford for pick 14 or PJ or something like that and grab our favorite point guard. But yeah, I have kind of thought about that. Um, then you slide Flag in at the 4, you start Lively at the 5, you keep PJ and Gafford off the bench, and then you solve your point guard problem with Harper, and then you've got a young core of Harper, Flag, Lively to build around with Kyrie mentoring. Now, would San Antonio ever do that? Probably not. But I think the logic that I thought was, well, San
They
Antonio's
could. They could though.
they've got their young talent. Anthony Davis and Wemby, you've got
Oh my
immediately
goodness.
best defensive front court in league history. I mean, two of the best defensive bigs we've ever seen. And I actually think they would be somewhat complementary on offense.
No, they would, bro. That's
Uh,
insane.
they could provide some spacing for each other. They can both
Yeah.
do men. They can kind of both do everything.
Wemby wants to be on the perimeter. AD said that he would like somebody next to him that wouldn't mind getting on the block every now and then too.
Right. Yeah, they can
Oh my god.
they kind of
Oh,
fix each other's problems for each other because they both
and that's yeah.
don't want to. They both will bang, but don't want to bang the whole game. And it's like, okay, well, we can just switch. We could just switch off. So yeah, that was one little crazy idea I was kicking around. But yeah, I do think it would make some sense of and I almost have PTSD saying this because it just reminds me of the Warriors and how poorly this went for them. But I do think that they should look into a bit of this 2 timeline model How can we compete right now with a Flag, but also get him, in addition to Lively, one or two other guys that we can have that grows with him at the same time. So if we can't
I'm with
compete,
you, bro. That
you
that would be wise, and that's a mold that's working, man. The super team hasn't died, but the
right,
super teams are built now.
yeah,
It's Oklahoma City. It's you got to get about 3 picks in a row that are bang bang bang, and let it watch it. Just water it and watch what happens. It's Boston of don't trade the guys, keep them. Don't trade them.
chemistry build, yeah,
Let them get there. Denver, add residual pieces, but what's working, let it work. Ooh wee. I think Dallas is in a good spot. I think Flag is a player worth latching onto and taking a swing on the benefit of the doubt,
mhm,
or I just want to be a part of what happens here versus watching it happen somewhere else to try and be the 1-30 team that wins the championship over the next 2 years. That wouldn't, and especially like you said, you're like if we go all in now again, are we only creating another crash and burn in
right.
just 2 years time?
And you look at OKC and the way Houston's, building. I mean, LA with Luca and LeBron. I mean, you guys never struggle to get talent. That's going to be, having those two guys is like one of the best draws you've had since
We let a lot go as well.
Um, so I don't think that this West is getting easier. Not to say that Dallas can't be competitive and give anyone hell in a series next year, with a Flag or with a Giannis, either way. But it's one thing to be able to beat anyone. It's another thing to be able to beat anyone 4 times in a row. And I'm not sure they're quite there yet. Regardless of what moves they make this offseason. So yeah, I think that's where I lean more. Play it safe, take Flag, take our time.
Yeah. And that's funny because Dallas has this sort of tie to a couple of the remaining teams in the playoffs. There's Carlisle, Carlisle and Indy doing his
Magician.
thing. Was Carlisle traded?
No, it was
Oh
I think
man.
termed as a mutual parting of ways. He uh apparently Carl can be kind of a jerk. I don't know if we're allowed to curse on this guy. He can be kind of an a-hole, but I think that it's funny. It got turned into, oh, Carlisle's too hard on Luca, and that's why he got fired. Which the reporting sense is it was more the case. Luca didn't like how hard Carlisle was on like Salah measure. Like he would just be so mean to the bad players on the team, apparently. And Luca did not feel comfortable with that and apparently got upset.
That's
And
hilarious.
and they just split. Yeah, they were like, this isn't gonna work. And it did devastate me. Mavs fans were, for the most part, very excited at the time. They did not like Carlisle, and I think that's just a classic fan base always learns to hate their coach because anytime you lose, you're like, oh, you should have been playing Christian Wood. Like it's so easy as a fan to, you did this wrong and you could have done that. Um, but I was pretty devastated because he's, particularly in the playoffs, he might be about as good of a playoff game planner as we've ever seen from a
Yeah.
coach. I mean, he'll throw
No,
up
he reads that puppy, man, and that 2012 job. Good lord.
incredible. Um,
And that's with using some of the right pieces, and that's just knowing what you have. And it's funny that you described him that way because now it makes sense. If his floor is like that, if this is like, no, I don't. If you're trash, I'm going to let you know you're trash. If you're not cutting the mustard, you will know.
he's very
Based off my coaching method, it makes sense why that team is 12 deep,
right.
and they're all kind of confident, ready to get out there because that
And
relationship
it's
with your
why
coach.
he can mess with their minutes. It's why he can be like, hey, you're not playing this series because we need shooting and you don't really shoot. I feel like a lot of other coaches are like, hey, you're one of our 8 guys. And like, we're going to go through it with you. And that's, has
Yeah,
its, merits and positives in its own respect. But he's very good about saying like, I mean, the Mavs almost beat the Clippers and Luca's, was that his second or third year? When Porzingis got hurt, and he was starting Boban Marjanovic for like half the series, and it was kind of working. Like it was crazy,
Right.
like he pulled Brunson, which like Brunson was probably our third or fourth best player at the time. And a lot of people were upset with it, but he was a terrible matchup with the Clippers at the time. Like now you would never do that, but like it actually kind of worked. Like he was too small. He was getting swallowed by Kawhi and Paul George and all those guys, and he was.
Yeah, and it wasn't this Brunson yet. There is the Brunson element. Because as Laker fans, we've watched Ingram, Kuzma, Lonzo, Julius Randle, Alex Caruso, Ivica Zubac, Larry Nance, like wherever they fall along the line of just NBA player, we've watched so many that we've had just go be good somewhere else
Right.
in spurts or not. So does Brunson just always like sort of irk you of like, oh, I wish he was here, or I wish we just gave him somebody at that time was expendable, or is it like, I don't know.
Well, that was the original Nico blunder, right? That was the first thing where I was like, it was funny because he redeemed himself very soon after, and then I think he was very popular up until the Luka trade. But at that time, we were like, man, we hired this shoe exec with no GM experience, and then how that timeline worked, it was nuts. So he's coming off the playoffs, and it was the playoffs that Carlisle pulled him. So there was a little bit of consternation there, but his max contract at the time was going to pay him like a seventh or eighth man at the time. And I went back because I had Mavs fans challenge me on this where they were like, well, no, he wasn't worth that money at the time. He didn't blow up to the playoffs. And I was like, that's not true, but I'm going to check anyway. I found about 7 articles that offseason about, hey, should the Mavs re-sign Jalen Brunson or not to this extension? And every single one was like, yeah, this is for sure. Like, just because he had a bad series, like this is easy value, and Nico, and he's on the record as saying, I definitely would have accepted it. And not only in the offseason, but for probably another month or two into the season, I would have accepted it for sure. Nico didn't do it because we were thin on trade assets because of the Porzingis trade, and he saw Brunson as our only real trade chip. And he thought, hey, we need a co-star for Luka. We're going to trade Brunson at the deadline. We can't give him an extension. It'll make him not eligible to be traded. Then Luka gets hurt in the regular season. Brunson starts. He crushes for like 2 weeks. He's averaging like 20 a game. And then he's like, guess what? I'm not. They're like, hey, how about that extension? And he was like, nah, I'm good. Let's talk in the summer.
I'm going to wait and see.
Yeah, we'll wait and see. Then they get through the playoffs. He's incredible, that playoffs run. I mean,
Oh, man,
this
is a great revisit.
Yeah, I mean, he was like 23, 24 a game that run. It was crazy. And again, Luka missed part of the first round series against the Jazz, and people were picking the Jazz because they're like, oh, no, Luka, they're going to shut down.
Right. And just a few months ago, we were like, we need a co-star for Luka, and it's like, holy crap, we might have his co-star.
Right. And then you get to the offseason.
But you couldn't have done the deal when you could have trade deadlines before the extension deadline.
Right.
He capitalizes on that. So you enter the deadline not in let's make the deal mode. So no deal's happening, basically. What do you know? He's like, oh, I'm there. And now he doesn't want to, and now you can't ink him either.
It's crazy. And the season ends, and Cuban has done this throughout his career. He'll just be like, we're never letting Nash go. And then he'll let Nash go. But he goes, hey, they asked him about Brunson. He didn't want to, get a tampering fine, but they're like, hey, do you plan on bringing him back? And he goes, we can pay him more than anyone. So it's like, okay, top priority. And then they don't set up a meeting with him. Or they had a meeting set up with him, and the Knicks offered him their contract, which they thought was so high that they just didn't come back to the table. They were like, we're good. They thought, and then the assumption was, hey, we can work out a sign and trade because the Knicks don't have the money to make this signing. So we'll get some stuff from them back. And then the Knicks made like 3 trades in a day right before the signing to where they cleared like 20 million cap space and then just signed him outright. So yeah, I mean, that was brutal. I mean, if you were to think, obviously you don't if you don't let Kyrie walk, or you don't let Brunson walk, you don't get Kyrie. So it works out decently well in that respect. But at least, you would still have Brunson, Dorian Finney-Smith, and a first-round pick, in a swap, which, was super cheap for Kyrie at the time. It's kind of insane in hindsight that was the deal. But yeah,
Things happen, and I love doing it on the spot, talking and keeping in perspective some things. A player media culture is not my favorite.
mm-hmm.
I don't think the discourse is where it should be, and that gets recycled, and now everybody's talking about nonsense. So I like revisiting things that actually happened, context, and how things are progressing, and not forgetting some of the elements that created where we are. And it's funny how Dallas has a hand in, you could say, building some of these teams. And I'm also with you. And maybe their next supervillain move is to make the Spurs unbeatable while putting themselves at the bottom of the conference. Is like, yeah, let's watch y'all. Let's watch them run y'all for a couple years. And in 2027, 28, we're going to be nice.
Yeah.
We're going to be the Thunder.
And I'm okay with that, honestly. I think I'm fine, even if it's Houston. Like, I don't know. The guy I'd want from Houston's Amen Thompson, and they would. I don't think they would even consider trading him for anything. But also, I never thought the Mavs would consider trading Luka for anything. So who knows? But yeah, same token, I would probably do the same thing with Houston if they want to give me Amen and my pick of Jalen Green or like, then yeah, I'd be comfortable with go win your championship with Anthony Davis, and we'll see you in 4 or 5 years.
Or crash and burn, and we'll be right here,
Right.
ready to give you another asset at the deadline. I'm with that. I think that's realistic. And the question that I sort of propped this with is like, are you cool with letting Giannis just go win championships down the road? Possibly.